Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य सतो श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रवचकाचार्य अस्ततो श्री श्रीमद एसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की गौर प्रेमानंदी। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text 9. I think we did Text 8 yesterday. Priyavrato tunapado Swasheyam duhita mama Anvichati patim yuktam Vayashila gunadibi Priyavrata uttanapado Swasheyam duhita mama Anvichati patim yuktam Vayashila gunadibi Priyavrato tunapado Swasheyam duhita mama Anvichati patim yuktam Vayashila gunadibi Vaishnavis. Priyavrato Tanapado. Of Priyavrata and Uttanapad. Swasha, sister. Iyam, this. Duhita, daughter. Mama, my. Anvichati, is seeking. Patim, husband, yuktam surit, vaya shila gunadibi, by age, character, good qualities, etc. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My daughter is the sister of Priyavrata and Uttanapad. She is seeking a suitable husband in terms of age, character, and good qualities. Purport. The grown-up daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Devahuti, had good character and was well qualified. Therefore, she was searching for a suitable husband, just befitting her age, qualities, and character. The purpose of Manu's introducing his daughter as the sister of Priyavrata and Uttanapad, two great kings, was to convince the sage that the girl came from a great family. She was his daughter and at the same time the sister of Kshatriyas. She did not come from a lower class family. Manu therefore offered her to Kardama as just suitable for his purpose. It is clear that although the daughter was mature in age and qualities, she did not go out and find her husband independently. She expressed her desire for a suitable husband corresponding to her character, age, and quality. And the father himself, out of affection for his daughter, took charge of finding such a husband. Translation again. My daughter is the sister of Priyavrata and Uttanapad. She is seeking a suitable husband in terms of age, character, and good qualities. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what we are seeing today in this verse is the proper system that goes around in a civilized human society. When the girl comes to a mature age, she seeks or desires to have a suitable husband, then she approaches her senior, her father, to have a husband of suitable for her qualities and character. However, what we have today in the society is not really a human society. We are living in a society where we are taught to do what our senses feel like doing right now at this moment. Don't worry about what other people think, what to speak of consulting our seniors, especially parents. Just go and do what you feel like. But in a proper civilized human society, we are seeing when the girl comes to a mature age, she expresses her desire to her seniors to have a husband, to have a partner, without going out independently searching for a suitable husband. In today's society, I was looking up this study that was done by CDC a couple of years ago, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And the results were shocking, at least for me, maybe not for the materialist, because they might have their own opinion. It says that by the age of 15, teenagers in United States, 55% of the teenagers have had physical contact with the opposite sex. This is half of the teenagers in the country. And by the time they reach 18, that number increases from 55 to 80%. And another surprising thing, which again might not be surprising for the Karmis, more than 98% of these teenagers uses some kind of contraception method. So this is what we are teaching from an early age in the society. How to engage in degraded activities and how to engage in killing from an early age. The time which should be used for cultivating spiritual knowledge, for understanding one's psychophysical nature so that one can use that later in life. This is what we are taught as as it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Sama, Dama, Tapas, Saucham. This is what we should be learning from an early age. Control of the mind, control of the senses, brahmacharya. But again, we have to understand that we are not really living in a human society. We are living in a barbaric animal society where kids and teenagers and adults are encouraged to let loose of your mind and senses. Why do you have to control your senses? Why do you have to control your mind? Real happiness lies when you just let go and express yourself. And that's when happiness will come. That's when there will be fulfillment. But we see the contrary in the society. No one knows what is the ultimate goal. No one have an understanding of there are consequences to our activities. There is no obligation. There is no duty. There is no commitment. You can just do whatever you like. This is not a human society. It's an animal society. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Kaumaram acharat pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha durlabham manusham janma tad api adruvam arthadam. One who is sufficiently intelligent should use this human form of life from the very beginning, from an early age, at the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service and give up all other engagements. And beautifully in the purport, Prabhupada writes that the whole purpose of Vedic civilization and of reading the Vedas is to attain perfect stage of devotional service in the human form of life. According to the Vedic system, therefore, from the very beginning of life, the brahmacharya system is introduced from one's very childhood. From the age of 5 years, one can practice modifying one's human activities so as to engage perfectly in devotional service. Why Prahlad Maharaj is encouraging that from an early age one should start practicing devotional service? Why not wait till you grow up and settle down, have a stable career and get situated in your psychophysical nature, and then later on you'll practice bhakti? No, the Prahlad Maharaj is encouraging that from an early age we start to take on impressions which carry with us throughout our life. I was talking to Mukunda Datta Prabhu last month in Vrindavan, and he was talking about he still remembers all the jingles that he heard when he was a little kid. And it's just really hard to just let them go. So we see that in our own experience that whatever impressions we have had in our early age, they just stick with us. It's really hard to eradicate those conceptions. And that's why Prahlad Maharaj is saying that any act of devotional service that we perform from an early age leaves such a strong impression that we will never forget those activities. We will never forget those experiences. But again, in the modern civilization today, what to speak of taking guidance from the Vedic literature, we are taught to engage in degraded activities, to kill, to exploit nature, to exploit humans in the name of advancement. So, because of the result of those engagements is that human society has lost interest in perfection of life. No one really cares to understand, where am I going? What is the goal of life? What should I be doing with my time and my energy? As Bhagavatam says, Manda sumanda mateo manda bhagya upadrita. And this is Kali Yuga. People are unfortunate, misguided, unlucky, and always disturbed. But in this present day and age, in this distorted, animalistic society, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda comes to bestow their causeless mercy. They come to give us the highest benediction. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Saho Dutau Gauradau Pushpavantau Chitrau Sandau Tamo Nudau. In the Adi Leela, chapter 1, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda have risen simultaneously like the sun and the moon. And they are dissipating the darkness of ignorance and bestowing upon the living entities the greatest benediction. And what is that greatest benediction that they are giving? The privilege to practice devotional service. The opportunity to engage in Raganuga Bhakti that will ultimately result in Krishna Prema. Now, we have to understand the nature of these two brothers. The more we study them, the more we can understand how merciful they are. They don't see any qualification. They don't distinguish who's the right person to engage in devotional service. They are just intoxicated in love for Krishna, chanting and dancing. They're just giving out freely this highest treasure of Krishna Prema. You see, when Krishna came 5,000 years ago, he strongly demanded that first you surrender, then devotional service. Then you get all the ecstasies and all the bliss. But first you have to surrender. First you have to become purified. Then you can engage in devotional service. As it is said, Brahma Bhuta Prashanatmana Sochati na Kangshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. That this is the qualification. That first you have to be situated in Brahma Bhuta plane. But who among us was situated in that position before we came to Krishna consciousness? Prasanatma, fully joyful. Na sochati na kangshati, never, not lamenting for anything, not grieving about anything, and having equal vision towards all living entities. No, we were all probably the opposite of all those things, miserable as one can get, and always lamenting. And Krishna says, once you are situated in that position, then you can engage in devotional service. But when Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda comes, they break all the rules. Their policy is that first you take the ecstasy, you take all the bliss, engage in devotional service. And again, remember, engaging in devotional service means engaging in ecstatic activities. Sometimes we might, because of our material conditioning, we bring in that imposition that, this devotional service, another material activity. Yeah, sure, I'm doing it for Krishna, but I'm not getting any bliss. Lord Chaitanya says engaging in devotional service is equivalent to engaging in blissful, ecstatic, trance kind of state. So we have to understand that we have to approach devotional service in the right attitude. And then when we do that, automatically all the ecstasies and all the happiness of bhakti follows behind. However, a side point, an advanced devotee shuns away even whatever bliss or ecstasy they get during their engagements because it obstructs their service. Because they are so much focused on executing their service towards their Lord, they don't want any hindrance. And na bhilashita shunyam, no obstruction, no hindrance in their in satisfying their beloved Lord. So Lord Chaitanya says, breaking all the rules, that you take to devotional service first, engage in chanting and dancing and feasting, and then we'll talk about surrender later. As Lochan Das Thakur says, Parama Karuna Bahu Dui Jana Nitai Gaura Chandra. These two lords, Nitai, Gaura Chandra, are very merciful. Again, something we should meditate on, the nature of these two brothers. We are often meditating about something or the other, especially we meditate on people. This person this did to me, or I'm in love with this person, or I have to impress this person to get certain things. So we should engage that propensity in meditating on Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and we will be able to understand their inconceivable mercy. And the more we serve these two brothers, the more we will become the recipients of their mercy. And what is the best way we can serve Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda? Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh, mara agya guru hoye tara aidesh. And wherever you go, whomever you meet, teach the signs of Krishna. Note that this is the same instruction as Krishna says in the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharmana paritajya mamekam sharanam vraja. In this day and age, that is the way to surrender, by sharing Krishna consciousness with everyone, by giving devotional service to everyone, by helping others understand what is the ultimate goal of life. Lately, I have been realizing that this Krishna conscious process is the process of begging. Of course, not like ordinary beggars, but transcendental beggars. You have to cultivate this mood of constant begging. Almost we have to beg 24/7 every day to the lordships, to our spiritual master, that I'm so fallen, have no qualification, but I'm engaging in the topmost activity, the topmost engagement. Please qualify me that I can satisfy my spiritual master, can satisfy Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. And we can't really beg if we don't have the right attitude, if we are not humble. We don't have the patience for the mercy to be bestowed upon us. If we don't have the tolerance, because living with devotees in a community of devotees needs tolerance. There is always differences, It's always conflicts of ideas, misunderstandings. So if we don't have tolerance, then we'll be making offenses, and out goes the door, this mood of begging and being in a humble state. And it's easy to forget this mood, which is actually better, so much better than in the begging in Krishna consciousness is so much better than being the topmost materialist, Hiranyakashipu or something in the material world. We have all the opulences and have all the material facilities. It is better to be a beggar in Krishna consciousness than be a Hiranyakashipu in the material world. And that is the way to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. In order to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we have to beg Lord Nityananda Prabhu. In order to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, we have to beg the 6 Goswamis. And in order to get the mercy of the 6 Goswamis, we have to beg the inhabitants of Kali Yuga to take up to Krishna consciousness, to engage in devotional service. We have to beg. As Prabhupada would sometimes say that, or he would quote this verse that, I don't remember the Sanskrit, but I go to a materialist and I glorify them, do their puja, do their worship, and fall to their lotus feet and beg them, just throw away all your crazy ideas, throw away all your misconceptions, and just chant Hare Krishna, just engage in devotional service. So please remember this attitude of constant begging. Gaur Govinda Maharaj would often say that unless you can cry for Krishna, you cannot get his mercy. So just something to think about. And interestingly, that begging brings about so much happiness. That begging brings about so much transcendental bliss. As we see the scene in Vrindavan when Krishna left for Mathura, when Akrura came to pick up the 2 brothers, Krishna and Balram, the inhabitants of Vrindavan were devastated that their Lord, the most important person in the village is leaving, is going out. And after Krishna left, he returned only 1 or 2 times. However, and the inhabitants of Vrindavan were always crying, were always lamenting. So you might say, what is this? Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. You should not be lamenting, should be happy, blissful. But that is a different kind of lamentation, the lamentation of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. That lamentation brings in association of Krishna. Again, something inconceivable for our material minds, because how can separation brings about happiness of being with the person? Because we are so fixated on bodily identification that, yes, if I am with the person physically, only then I am actually with the person, and that will be the most glorious moment. However, in spiritual life, I think it would be justified to say it's the opposite, because the highest level of Krishna consciousness is executing devotional service in separation, as displayed by the inhabitants of Vrindavan. from an external point of view, yes, they are all suffering, they are all miserable. But what they are tasting, their consciousness, is association of Krishna. But even literally, not just in consciousness of those inhabitants is Krishna present, but even literally Krishna is present with them through physically present in Vrindavan. And again, that's something hard for us to understand because we focus so much on physicality, we focus so much on bodily identification. So again, this point of begging and crying, just like Advaita Acharya cried for the Lord to come to the material world and help out the inhabitants, to give Krishna consciousness to everyone. And remember, Advaita Acharya is the combined incarnation of Lord Shiva and Mahavishnu. And by his loud cries, worshipping tulsi leaves with Ganga water, by his constant crying, the Lord had to descend. And of course, we know there were some internal reasons for the advent of Lord Chaitanya, but that's a different point. The focus is that Advaita Acharya was crying out of compassion for the living entities and begging the Lord to come and deliver them. So today is the appearance day of Lord Shiva, and we can beg for his mercy. We can cry so that he can bestow upon us pure devotional service. He is the greatest Vaishnavas, greatest of all the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. So we should not hesitate in approaching him. As Prabhupada would often say, that one should know the right way to approach the demigods. Although Lord Shiva is not a demigod, nor is he Vishnu Tattva, he is just something in the middle. So we can approach the demigods with this attitude that give us Krishna consciousness, help us in purifying our consciousness so we can engage in pure devotional service. Lord Shiva is one of the 12 Mahajans, Swambhur Narada Shambhu, Kumara Kapilo Manu. So we should follow his instructions and take this opportunity as for this auspicious occasion of his appearance and cry and beg for his mercy so that he can engage us in pure devotional service, so we can please our spiritual master, so we can please our predecessor acharyas and somehow get their mercy. Thank you very much. Any questions or thoughts? Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
On the point of begging, you mentioned that you have to have certain qualities in order to be able to be in that state of mind. The quality that occurred to me that's necessary is honesty. At least I'll speak for myself. If I'm going to be honest, yeah, I need to beg because I'm watching what's going on in my mind, and it doesn't correspond to pure devotional service. So, I think if we're just honest about what we're experiencing, what we're seeing going on in our own mind, well, at least myself, I have to realize I'm in a position, I got to beg. But and he said another thought following from that, it's not that we have to feel a ton of religious guilt, because this mind is a machine. The mind is not a sentient being. The mind is inanimate. It's just like I have limitations with this body. You know, I can only jump so high, I can only run so fast, I can only lift so much weight. I don't feel guilty about that. That's just limitations of my body. So in the same way, our mind is limited. And we heard this morning, you know, this is the Kali Yuga. It's a very dangerous age for the human being. So it's understood that if you take birth as a human being in the Kali Yuga, generally you're taking birth in a very degraded body, which is accompanied by a very degraded mind. So it's par for the course. It's just par for the course that we're going to, despite the fact that we're engaged in the highest activity, as you were pointing out, you know, we've got a lot of low class, low grade stuff going on in our minds. And, you know, if we're just honest about that, we realize, well, I got to pray. I mean, I got to beg. Because it's you know otherwise if you don't beg, it's kind of passing through. It's always there, you know, and you might latch on to something and identify with some of that garbage and, you know, take shelter of it and try to act upon it. Then you're in trouble. But if we beg, like you said, for the mercy of our spiritual master, the predecessor acharyas, then we could stay aloof. That's the way to stay aloof from that. Anyway, it's just a thought.
Then you wouldn't know what you have to work on. You wouldn't know what your issues are. Sometimes we delude ourselves thinking that, oh yes, I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, I'm very elevated. Look at all those karmis. They are, yes, the problem is with them. I am chanting Hare Krishna. So, and because of that attitude, we bring in our baggage, our conditioning in our devotional activities. So again, thank you for mentioning that we need to be honest and authentic. And when we are authentic and honest with ourselves, then we would know like where we are situated and how further we have to go. And naturally, the result of that attitude should be the begging. Right. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Prabhu. I have some reflection about that, some thoughts about begging. It came to my mind, the first example, of course, you know, the Supreme Lord Himself, He's teaching us through the pure devotees how to approach, you know. So, Srila Prabhupada, when he came to America and in the Jaladuta, he made the most profound and deep prayers to the Lord, feeling himself incapable of doing this big mission that his spiritual master gave to him. And he's begging that, my dear Lord, by your will, by your desire, these living entities are in Maya, in illusion, but by your will they can become. So he's asking for empowerment. He himself, he feels like incapable, and he signs like the most humble beggar. So this is something that I like to read over and over and over to remind myself, this is the mood to approach. Not only that, but Lord Nityananda himself, he will roll in the ground. When Lord Chaitanya gave him the order to go with Haridas Thakur and knock the doors, he will knock the door, somebody opens, they don't want to, he will just lay down in the ground, roll in the ground, please chant Hare Krishna. So, thank you. That's begging for the well-being.
I'm getting dizzy here.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the wonderful class. You know, the theme comes across, my question was on begging as well. You know, when we approach Krishna and beg him for his mercy, you mentioned that he directs us to Nityananda Prabhu, who directs us to the six Goswamis, who the highest level of begging is to beg the conditioned living entities to take on the Krishna consciousness. I'm speculating, but when I say it's the highest level, but essentially that's the hardest begging, because these people are like intoxicated or eating meat, and we have to approach them humbly and associate with these people. So how do you is the goal to strike a balance? And because when you see these people and all the crazy things they do, your natural instinct is to try to like instruct these people or give them the philosophy, but they might not be ready to accept that. And the idea of like following in the footsteps of Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, who's like on the ground at the feet of these conditioned souls and begging them to chant Hare Krishna, is also like very difficult to execute. So what advice do you have?
In my humble experience of doing outreach for last 7 years, the more you engage in giving Krishna to others, the more Krishna will give you the intelligence in the ways that you can give Krishna consciousness to others. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upyantite. To those who surrender to me, accordingly I give them the facilities, I give them the intelligence. So, as you would have seen in your book distribution experiences, that one out of 10 people would take a book, and it's easy to become discouraged. There are so many heartbreaks, there are so many disappointments, but if we are just steady, just like Bhrigupati Prabhu is for last 50 years or more, in pleasing Krishna, that no matter what, even if no one takes the book, I go out all day and no books goes out, I'll still do this every day for the rest of my life. Because I'm doing this not to get some numbers or to make my name in the scores, but I'm doing this out of love. I'm doing this as an act of gratitude, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada. So, of course, we can't imitate Nityananda Prabhu, Haridas Thakur, that we are literally begging the materialist. But we have to use our intelligence when we do Sankirtan. We have to see how we can approach them and give them Krishna consciousness according to time, place and circumstances.
Yeah. You don't have to beg the materialist, just beg Krishna. Our begging is, directed towards we beg our spiritual master, we beg, the predecessor acharyas, we beg Krishna. And then, whatever happens, whatever they do, it's up to them, But we just beg internally. And actually, Govinda Maharaj said, I've set up a school for crying. Actually, here's the thought, begging is not generally thought of as a very desirable quality. When you hear of begging, you think, an ordinary person would think begging, well, why would I want to beg? It's like, uncomfortable. It's not, you're unfortunate when you're begging. But actually the begging, when you learn how to beg in Krishna consciousness, it becomes transformed into Vipralamba Seva. See, we're followers of Lord Chaitanya. We're participating in Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. So Lord Chaitanya came to give Vraj Bhakti, and he expresses the epitome or the ultimate of Vraj Bhakti is expressed by Lord Chaitanya in the last the eighth of his Shashastikam prayers, where he says, I know no one but Krishna. And you sort of touched upon that and paraphrased it a little bit in what your comment there. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so. even if he handles me roughly in his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me, he's completely free to do anything and everything. He's always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. So we're being trained up to be, to be qualified for Vraj Bhakti. So we have to expect, that we're going to be treated roughly in Krishna's embrace, and we're going to be brokenhearted that he's not present before us. But our response to that has to be, but you're completely free to do anything and everything. I'm going to keep distributing. I'm not distributing even one book, but I'm going to keep going because you're completely free to do anything and everything. You're always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. You see? And that begging, as I say, will become transformed into Vipralamba Seva, like the 6 Goswamis. They were running around begging, Krishna, Radharani, where are you? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan? Or you're under the banks? They're begging, you see? So it's superficially, it seems like, well, it's an undesired. Why would anybody want to be begging? That the begging in Krishna consciousness gets transformed into the highest nectar, the highest, rasa, like that, Vipralamba Seva. Yeah. Say something.
About intelligence, Krishna giving us intelligence, or Srila Prabhupada giving us intelligence when we have the strong desire. So in Pakistan, it's virtually impossible to get Muslims to chant Hare Krishna. They won't do it. A few mate, but very few. So we got the intelligence to promote not Krishna consciousness, that was out of the question, but to promote love between people of different religions. So we chant Allahu Akbar, chant some Christian prayer, and we chant some Hindu prayer too, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. That they're willing to do, some of them.
Thank you, Prabhu. Just another thought and reflection about begging. I just remember that maybe the first week I joined, they took me out in Sankirtan, and it was so difficult. It was, I come from you can say poor country, Mexico, but in those times, like about 65 years ago, 70, you didn't have those, people begging in the street. We didn't see them. Everybody is very poor but humbly working, so we didn't see beggars. I didn't know about begging. So when I went out, it's like, this is begging in the parking lot. It was like I cannot do this. The Sankirtan leader came, he said, what's your problem? Your problem is that you're thinking that you're begging for yourself. This is not begging. This is, you get out of the mental platform. This is for Krishna. And then I thought, my God, that's right. It's like totally out of the bodily concept of life. And then if you can just remember, from the Bhagavad Gita, if you just go to the scriptures, it's right there. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva vayantimam buddha bhava samambitaha. It's like Krishna is the proprietor of everything. They don't own anything. These people walking around, so-called millionaires, billionaires, intellectuals, what do they have? That we get, oh no, I cannot talk to this person, or we discriminate. I don't want to talk to this one. Maybe this one has more than the other one. We start calculating. That's another misconception. So again, thank you very much. Just another reflection.